Welcome to the Shutil podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Martin Depict. I'm a photographer, videographer based in Los Angeles. And today I want to talk about the perfect vlog lens. Now, I've been vlogging more over the last couple weeks. It is really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think what held me back before was that I would try to shoot everything probably over the course of a couple of days and then edit all in one day. Now I'm doing it completely different. I'm shooting and editing a little every day. And I think that helps me sort of like trick my brain into thinking that I'm not doing as much work. It also helps me because as I'm shooting and editing, I'm constantly thinking of like the next shot. So like, if I do like a talking head shot or like a little montage, I'm thinking like, okay, how do I transition this to this? And my goal is to do like longer than 30-minute videos. And to get to that point, I need to be able to sort of just like be nimble and maneuver my way around, these stories that I want to tell in a way that sort of like isn't too like post production heavy, because I want to be able to edit it pretty quickly and not miss a day of uploads. And I think what I settled on is I'm going to be doing one podcast every other week, and in between that, it'll be one vlog every other week. And I think that's doable. And I'm very confident right now, so I'm not too worried about it. But anyway, back to the lens. Right now, I think the norm for a lot of vloggers is the 16-35 f2.8, which is sort of like one of the Trinity lenses. I think it's an awesome lens, but I want a little bit more versatility. I love the size of it. And I was looking at other lenses, similar size, that can give me a little bit more reach, as in zoom. I love the fixed lenses. I love the prime lenses. Right now I'm shooting on the 20mm f1.4. And sometimes I use this 16mm f2.8, and it's awesome. But I want the internal stabilization in the lens. I think it helps so much because these cameras, although the internal stabilization is great digitally, I still get some of that wobble sometimes, and I don't want that in the frame. I think it distracts too much from the shot. So internal lens stabilization, I think, is the way to go. My 24-105 has it, and it's awesome. But my 24-105 f2.8 is huge. I used to have the 24-105 f4, which is more similar size to the 15-35. But at the time, I didn't know that I was going to be doing this. I actually ended up selling it because back then I needed a lens that could better suit my needs as a photographer. Now that I'm doing this, in a perfect world, right? Like, it'd be great to have a lens for like 18-70, but they don't make that, at least not in full frame. I've seen a couple APS-C lenses that can do it, but that would mean I would have to be cropping into my sensor, which means a little bit lower quality. And I don't think that trade-off makes sense for me. Now, after doing all this research, I have one lens in mind that I think is going to be my top pick and choice for what I want. And that is the Canon RF 24-240 f4-6.3. So it is a variable aperture lens, which is a trade-off, but the versatility of 24-240, which is a 10 times zoom, is kind of crazy for a small package. I would assume that something like this would be, the size of my 24-105, but it's not. It's actually a little bigger than the 15-35 and not that much heavier. I think it's just under 2 pounds. The one issue with this lens is the price. Now, brand new, it's just over $1,000, but it's not weather sealed. And typically, if I'm going to be spending over $1,000 for any lens, I think that's like the minimum requirement for me. It's just like, it needs to be well protected. This lens specifically was one of the first Canon RF lenses, so it shipped out with the Canon R in kits, And I'm sure there's a lot of them out there used, but because it's not weather sealed, and what I'm assuming it was purchased by a lot of amateur photographers or families that wanted a camera for family use. There's probably a lot of them out there that are beat up, were probably not taken care of well. And that in mind, the value that some of these lenses, these used lenses are selling for is pretty crazy. Like you won't find one for less than $700. You might be lucky to find one for like $650. But if I'm buying a lens that's not weather sealed and more than 4 years old, I think the price should be closer to like 400. But that's just me. So most likely I'm going to probably end up buying a new one because I'd rather not deal with having to take a lens that's used, serviced, and make sure that all the motors work and make sure that there's no issues with it optically. It's still, even at that price, it's not an optically perfect lens. There's a lot of vignetting at 24 millimeters, but all that, I guess, is just a trade-off to the versatility. Now, I could go with a 24 to 70 f2 and sort of like call it safe, but I already have a 28 to 70 f2, and I don't want to get a lot more lenses that overlap themselves. Like if I do, they're going to be for specific purposes. Like in my kit right now, I have a 15 to 35, an 85, a 28 to 70, and then I have a 24 to 105 f2.8 that's only for video. So I am covered from 15 to 105, but 3 of those lenses are photo specific. This would be something that's only for video. I don't think I would take a lot of photos with it, even though it might be great for photos at that zoom range. I just think that versatility for like running and gunning might be beneficial. The fact that it's a variable aperture doesn't bother me as much. The difference in stops between f1.2 and f6.3 is about 5 stops, give or take. And most of the cameras that I'm shooting on now do really well in low light. So pushing up the ISO to be able to get a better image in higher f-stops, I don't think would be an issue. So I'm not too worried about the quality of image that I'm going to be getting in low light. I think most of the time anyway, these are going to be like, shots inside anyway. And I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to just get shots wherever I am. I haven't ordered it yet. I'm still on the fence about it. I think, if I can find a used one for 400 or sub 400, maybe I'll jump at it. But, again, I think biting the bullet of $1,000 for a lens that's not weather sealed is tough for me. I think it would literally be a lens that I'm purchasing to just beat up. Like this would be a lens that I buy and to shoot this stuff with, and I have to be okay with it breaking sooner than the rest of them. And I take really good care of my stuff. Like all my stuff is clean. Caps are always on it. I go get them serviced every once in a while. So having a lens that's like this for this purpose is different for me. But, I think it'll be well worth it in the long run. And so I think that's going to be my choice. The Canon RF 24 to 240 millimeter f4 to 6.3. They have to come up with better names for these things, man. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was Fuji's DR feature. Now, if you own a Fuji X series, I'm sure you know about the DR feature or setting on the back of your camera. It's like, I think most people that buy the Fuji X100 series cameras, they're usually shooting in JPEG plus RAW. Most likely because they have a recipe on the camera that they really like, and it probably comes out better in the JPEG than if you were try to emulate that with the RAW file. And I know from experience because I've tried. No matter how much I try to get my RAW image to match with the JPEG, it's almost impossible. I almost feel like the settings of that JPEG should automatically be put on the RAW, and I should be able to tweak it. But the DR feature specifically is very interesting because I came across a YouTube video by a creator named Pitt Harper. He uploaded this video about 3 months ago, and he did like a really great explanation on the DR feature and how to use it in your raw files. Now, it's sort of a little bit backwards thinking. If you've been a photographer for a long time, especially with digital photography, you know that once you clip those highlights are gone. They're hard to get back in post. The DR feature specifically lets you retain a lot of the highlights in the raw file. The downside is that you have to shoot at ISO 500 if you want to use the DR 400 feature. I'll link the video below so you guys can go watch it because he does a great job explaining it and he gives examples. The example that he gave was he exposed the photo correctly with exposing for the highlights with the DR 400 setting on. And then in the raw file, when he tried to bump up the shadows are really noisy and grainy. And then he took another photo and exposed just for the shadows and let the highlights bloom a little bit. But because that DR 400 setting was on and he was shooting in ISO 500, he kept all that information in the highlights in the raw file and was able to pull back the highlights to in a way that looks still pretty natural. Because usually when you're in Lightroom and you pull down the highlights too much, there's a point where it starts to look unnatural. It just looks like there's no punch in the highlights. And I never pull my highlights down that much. You notice it more if someone's wearing white in the image because that white will turn gray and all the wrinkles and everything will pop more in that photo. So it's a really great video. I highly recommend you guys watch it. I'll link it down below. He takes a bunch of photos and gives a bunch of examples and explains it way better than I'm explaining it now. It's still something that I need to experiment with my Fuji X100VI and my GFX 100 RF. I love those cameras and I love the feature of being able to retain all that information in the highlights. And I think understanding how to shoot with the raw image in mind, especially with the medium format camera, I want to make sure that I'm taking the best image possible. So like keeping the ISO low if I need to. So like ISO 60 is the base there. Not having as much latitude in the highlights, I think hurts the image. So if I need to shoot at ISO 500 to use that DR 400 setting and expose for the shadows to get a less grainy image, I think the quality would be worth it. But again, I think it's something that I need to try out for myself. And I'll give you guys an update for sure on the next podcast when I have some examples to show. I just think it was worth bringing up and it's a great video. So I highly recommend you guys go watch that after this one. So the last thing I want to talk about is my first vlog that I posted on here. It's not necessarily because I used to vlog and post them on this channel, but I wanted to start fresh. And I think that first vlog was not only a learning experience, but it was also something, that I needed to do to sort of see how much I was holding myself back. I was editing it as I was shooting it, and I think that helped so much sort of relieve this pressure that I put on myself because before when I used to do this stuff, I used to try to storybook everything not storybook everything, but I would try to plan out my day or plan out what I wanted the video or vlog to look like, whether it was the topics that I was going to talk about or the product I was going to be talking about. Again, I think it's very mundane. It made me realize that I was being way too hard on myself. I'm not saying that this is easy because it's not easy still, but the first step is sort of just doing it. And I was putting off that first step for so long because I kept telling myself like, I don't have time for it or I have too much on my plate. And, shooting a couple clips while I'm working with a 360 camera or just sort of like sitting down and recording myself talk to the camera as I'm sort of setting up for the shoot, or even like little clips with my with my Ray-Ban Metas as I'm walking through the airport. They're just like they're little parts of the story that I didn't see as valuable until now. It was really important for me to take that first step, and I'm really happy that I did, because even if no one watches it, I proved the point to myself that I could do it. I'm going to continue to do it, and I'm going to be sort of rotating every week between vlog and podcast. And I think that's realistic for me. It's realistic for me to do one of each every other week. It gives me 2 weeks to work on each one of them. This one, to be honest, I think this is harder. Doing the podcast is harder because I'm having to sit down. I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. I don't sound stupid. So I do a bunch of research. And then at the end of it, I'm sitting down and I'm cutting so much out of this. Like, I'll probably shoot for like an hour and cut it down to like 20 minutes. Ideally, the episodes are an hour long, but I can't get there yet. I'm still, like I said in my first episode, I'm still putting in my reps. I still need to get comfortable talking in front of the camera. It doesn't come easy for me. And I think that it's a very much a learning experience to do this, to put myself in front of the camera when I'm very much used to being behind it. I look at the screen most of the time because it's just sort of like instinct. I'm not used to looking at this. I'm used to looking at that. I think the biggest thing that I've learned though over the last couple weeks doing this is that I was really scared of nothing. Like it was is that I was psyching myself out. Like anything, it's easier said than done. Like, you can say that you can do that, you're gonna do all this stuff, but when it comes down to actually doing it, and not only that, but juggling work on the side, it's tough. And it's very easy to get in your own head and say, oh well, this popped up and I have to take care of this first, so that I guess I'll have to wait. One thing that I keep thinking about is that this has sort of been like a constant, is that this is something that I've always wanted to do. It's I've always posted on YouTube. I've tried to post on YouTube. There's videos from like 2016, 2015, or maybe even before that I posted, that I've archived. And those videos, I look back at them and I see a version of me that I don't think was ready for this. I don't even necessarily know that I'm ready now, but I think that I'm at a place right now where I can comfortably stay consistent with this. As before, I was I was burnt out, and my brain would tell me that I could do it even though I couldn't. The worst part about it is that the few subscribers that I've gained up until this point, I see every now and then like people unsubscribe, and I try not to let it get to me, but I can only hold myself accountable for that because I was the one that had been inconsistent. I was the one that started something that I couldn't finish. And maybe this is me being way too hard on me right now, but it was something like saying that you're going to do something online and then not doing it. It eats at me because I've said so much stuff online that I couldn't do. And I've had to live with those failures. And this is one thing that I keep going back to and I keep trying. It's like this crazy hill that I keep trying to run up and I keep falling down. I have all the skills to be able to do this, except for maybe talking to a camera or storyboarding or coming up with hooks or doing all that stuff. But I think I can learn all that and eventually I'll get okay with it. But again, like I said in the first podcast, this is something that the only way I'm going to get better at it is for me to do it. And this might be repetitive from the last episode, but it's something again that I am needing to talk myself through to make sure that I don't give up on it, because I don't want to give up on it. I want to keep going. And I guess this is just me psyching myself up in my office. I'm just sitting here talking to myself with the camera recording me, telling myself I can do it. Don't give up. What's really beautiful about this is that one day I'm going to be gone. And these videos might still be up on the internet And people will be able to look back at these, whether I have, 5 subscribers or 5 million subscribers. People will be able to look back at all these videos and say, he stuck with it. And they'll be able to see how much I tried. And that's all I can sort of ask for. And I would want my future kids to watch this and say, wow, like dad put in a lot of work. And fuck yeah, I did. I end these episodes the same way every time, but it's like my mantra and something that I keep telling myself, keep shooting. So that's where I'm going to end this episode. Thank you again for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff down there. But more importantly, keep shooting. Peace.